Greetings, fellow Earthlings and extraterrestrial life forms, if you happen to be watching. Welcome to the Dr. J Vlog series. It's Thursday, January 23rd, 2025. On Thursdays, we tackle knowledge and science. Today's scientific question, I think, should fascinate just about everyone. I mean, who among us hasn't at some point considered the possibility of contacting intelligent life beyond Earth? Again, purely from my perspective, outside of the second coming or a clear instance of divinity intervening to upend the natural order of things, the coolest natural event that I could imagine would be the revelation of intelligent life somewhere else in the universe. Do I think such life exists beyond our planet? From a purely statistical and mathematical standpoint, yes, I believe that the probability is quite high. But what form and what kinds of intelligence? These issues remain purely speculative, at least at this point. Simply put, I think that the odds favor the existence of intelligent life elsewhere in the universe because of the sheer size and magnitude of the universe, the unfathomable number of potential stars and planets. In fact, our current estimates place the size of the known universe to be somewhere in the order of 93 billion light years in diameter. Most of you know a light year is the distance that light travels in one Earth year. And that's about 9.5 trillion kilometers, or almost 6 trillion miles. That's a size, that's a distance that defies everyday comprehension. And in that vast expanse of space, how many stars are there in the known universe? Well, again, we don't really know. It's virtually immeasurable. Astronomers don't even know exactly the number of stars that we have in our own local galaxy, the Milky Way. Estimates place the figure somewhere in the order of 100 billion stars, possibly much more. And that's just one galaxy. If you factor in that, again, our best understanding or our best guess, and I do call it a guesstimate, is that there are some 200 trillion galaxies in the known universe. Then we arrive at a figure of the number of stars, 2 times 10 to the 21st. That's 200 billion trillion stars. And again, how many planets circling those stars? By the way, with the launch of the James Webb Telescope on Christmas in 2021, we're almost certainly going to be revising those estimates upward as we continue to gaze deep into space. We're probably still wildly undercounting the number of galaxies and therefore the number of stars that exist, but we'll see. So what are the odds? What are the odds then of life existing beyond our planet or elsewhere in the universe? Tough question to answer, to be sure, and certainly we can't do it definitively at this point. But David Kipping's article, An Objective Bayesian Analysis of Life's Early Start and Our Late Arrival, helps to provide, I think, a reasonably intelligent answer. I'll include a link to the article so you can download that for yourselves and look at the research directly. Kipping's an astronomer at Columbia University, and he studied the chronology of the earliest evidence of life on Earth, and then used that evidence to trace the evolution of humanity to estimate how often we'd expect life and intelligence to reemerge if Earth's history were to repeat itself. That is, if we were to rerun the clock over and over again an infinite number of times. And he framed the answer in terms of four kind of logical possibilities. That is to say that life's common. I should say life develops intelligence, and it's quite common to do so. That life's rare, but when it does appear, it often develops intelligence. That life is quite common, but intelligence rarely develops. And finally, that life is rare and rarely develops intelligence. So he concludes from his analysis that if planets were in abundance of a kind or of a condition similar to that of Earth, and if the evolutionary timelines parallel Earth as well, and again, we simply don't know how many planets approximate Earth's conditions and or could accommodate similar evolution. But the point is that if such planets were relatively commonplace across the universe, then the likelihood of life spontaneously emerging is quite high. On the other hand, the odds of high intelligence emerging are far less likely, but clearly not impossible. So our best guess is that there's almost certainly life elsewhere in some form or another within the known universe or beyond. But to what level of development and what level of complexity, these issues remain unknown. Now, if such life exists, we might ask, why haven't we made contact then? Or why haven't they contacted us? And this is referred to as Fermi's paradox. In 1950, Enrico Fermi pondered why this discrepancy existed between the high likelihood of extraterrestrial life of some kind and why we still didn't have conclusive evidence of its existence. Now, of course, some have argued and still argue today that we have. And these are collectively referred to as UFO conspiracist theorists. They believe that we've been suppressing the information, the evidence of the contact, or that we've kept people in the dark about alien beings and their entry into our biosphere, their technologies, etc. But my argument would be that it would be incredibly difficult to conceal that type of evidence and for any extended period of time because alien contact would be the coolest thing ever. It would be the ultimate game changer, at least in my view. I mean, we already write all kinds of novels and make TV shows and movies all the time about encounters with extraterrestrials and intergalactic space travel and these sorts of issues. So, who wouldn't be absolutely blown away by actual verifiable encounters and the knowledge that would be gained as a result? And I don't mean just the knowledge confirming that other intelligent life exists or life forms in one kind or another exist. I just mean because of the knowledge, too, of how they could possibly exist, what forms they might take, and perhaps just as critically, how they got here. Again, these issues would be the ultimate game changer, at least in my view. And I say that because, from a human standpoint, with our current understanding of the laws of physics and the observable universe, the best that we can do would be to send out signals. And of course, we've done that. But the only man made objects, even to travel to the edge of our solar system and just recently just beyond, are the Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 space probes. These were launched back in 1977, and they've traveled now more than 15 billion miles. Fair distance, to be sure. But if they were directed to our nearest celestial neighbor, Alpha Centauri, it'd take over 73,000 years to get there. So you can see the problem. I mean, if intelligent life miraculously exists on some unknown planet that's currently circling Alpha Centauri, well, just to drop in for a visit or to stop by to have lunch with our next door neighbor would take us tens of thousands of years. Can you imagine how hungry you'd be by the time you got there for lunch? And I'm guessing that our neighbor would be pretty annoyed as well, right? What's taking those earthlings so frickin' long? Amazing, too, that they happen to be speaking English and even use some of our own jargon and slang. Well, my point is that for any intelligent life to make contact with us physically, or vice versa, would require technology that transcends our current capabilities. by several orders of magnitude, or a new understanding of physics, or what constitutes life for that matter. In our case, we've only had 12 people in human history to set foot on the moon. And that's all from the Apollo missions back in the late 60s and early 1970s. In fact, the last time we stood on the moon, or a human being was standing on the moon, was in December of 1972. That's over a half century ago. Having said that, I do think we'll get to Mars, and probably at some point in the current century. But that's probably about as far as we'll be able to go. And again, unless something or many things dramatically change between now and the 22nd century, shall we say. But if intelligence, or hopefully if such life does exist, my hope would be that the life forms are incredibly friendly if they do show up. And then, but the key point is that were they to get here in advance of us being able to get somewhere else, then that would reflect a type of knowledge base and technologies and an understanding of energy and matter and life far beyond our current knowledge and abilities. We'd all be craving to know, how did they get here? What means of travel? What technologies? Or indeed, how did they defy the laws of physics as we understand them, or perhaps manipulate time and space in ways that we simply don't know how? I mean, again, any of that is theoretically possible, but speaking as a human being, I have no idea what that would look like. Again, beyond speculation and theories about wormholes and these sorts of things. Okay. And so, but beyond that, even, if they do exist, how do they communicate? And again, are they life forms completely different from our understanding of life itself? So, if anyone actually has that information, or had gotten that information through some serendipitous encounter, I mean, that would be, again, a game changer. We'd be chomping at the bit to share that information. It would be incredible. It would be the coolest thing ever. So, no, I'm not a huge fan of conspiracy theories. I just don't think that's especially helpful, especially around extraterrestrial life forms. Sure, I do think that people and even governments can collude at times and do some bad things, or hide information, or conduct clandestine experiments, etc. Sure, but that stuff pales in comparison with uh, the issue of making contact with extraterrestrial life forms. Okay, and all of that stuff is many magnitudes less complicated than what would be required to be able to, engage in interstellar space travel, and the energy and the technology and the scientific knowledge that would be required. And if, for that matter, if the intelligent life itself could actually figure all that stuff out. And somehow, if intelligent life did manage to get here, it's not even remotely possible, in my view, that us, with our puny intelligence, could somehow just keep that intelligent life form trapped or locked below, in some underground bunkers or whatever the case may be. None of that makes sense. I mean, as soon as we figure out how to do something, we spread the information like crazy. And there's a reason why we now have more than in fact, more than twice as many cell phones as we do human beings on the planet. We love it when we get new information and technology, and it spreads. I don't want to say like wildfire, because that has a pretty negative connotation in the recent history. But the point is that there's no way that we as human beings, with our relatively puny intelligence, could somehow keep intelligent life that got here from expressing itself, or from taking over the planet if they're nefarious, or whatever else you might imagine. Okay? And so I'm a huge fan of something called SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. I'd like nothing more, quite frankly, from a scientific standpoint, than to finally somehow really make contact with intelligent life forms from anywhere else, even in our own galaxy, right? To say nothing of what might lie beyond our galaxy. It's just that with what we know right now, we're not going to be able to go anywhere ourselves, even remotely close, not even to Alpha Centauri, and certainly not in our lifetimes. Again, what might happen in the centuries ahead, we can only imagine, we can only speculate. But it's not clear to me that human beings, even with the advantage of several more centuries of knowledge and understanding, would even be able to get beyond our solar system, much less to another planet, or, of another solar system, and to say nothing of traveling to the further reaches of our own galaxy. Again, all of that could change in the millennia ahead. Who knows? But from our best understanding of science and the laws in physics, all of that stuff remains completely out of reach, other than in our imaginations. Again, prove me wrong. I'm happy to eat crow, as they say. It would be really cool to be eating crow, in fact, on Alpha Centauri for that imagined lunch that I briefly described. I'd be more than willing to change my diet and accommodate whatever my hosts were willing to offer. But until then, thanks for stopping by. I hope you didn't have to go too far, not to travel too far, that is. And until next time, may you and yours continue to nurture or create peace in your lives and nurture love in your hearts. And oh, let me know if you do happen to have any extraterrestrial encounters.